Okay, we're back with our main story today. The German Parliament, in the next few hours, is set to vote on what many consider an historical wrong, what happened to Armenians in Turkey during the days of the Ottoman Empire in World War I. Let's go now to Christopher Springate. He's standing by with the head of the Green Party, Cem Ozdemir, the man who initiated the bill that's being voted on today. Christopher?
That's right, Brian. Cem Ozdemir with me, one of the driving forces behind this resolution. Mr. Ozdemir, what kind of signal are you hoping to send to the outside world, assuming this resolution does get passed today?
101 years after the genocide, I think it's time for recognition. It's time that we, as the country that unfortunately was at the side of the Ottoman Empire, knew exactly what was happening, takes responsibility. We acknowledge, yes, it was a genocide. We take our part of the responsibility, and obviously that also sends a signal to Turkey that we encourage our friends there to take a second look into what happened there.
What sort of reaction are you expecting from Ankara?
Well, it depends on which Ankara. The official Ankara, obviously not a very nice reaction. As always, when the Armenian genocide is mentioned, independent from what kind of government you have in Turkey, but there is another Turkey. When you talk without media, directly a lot of people tell you stories that you would never hear officially and you would never find in a history book. And that is the other Turkish history, which is the unofficial story that is never told anywhere. Which includes stories, that people tell that their grandmother was Armenian, which includes stories that people tell that the people who used to live in this house used to be Armenians. So there is an unwritten story that waits to be one day told.
Now, Germany's Foreign Minister, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, was initially against this resolution. He called it clumsy against the backdrop of the beginnings of reconciliation between Armenians and Turks. Is this resolution coming at the wrong time?
Well, it's always at the wrong time, since 101 years, it's the wrong time to talk about our responsibility and our guilt. If there would be a process of reconciliation, I would be the first person, and I was for a long time. I mean, there are articles of mine telling exactly the same story that Frank-Walter Steinmeier is telling us today. But unfortunately, let's face it was Mr. Erdogan who stopped that process. There was such a process, and it's not the only process. Several attempts have been there, including one of the most outspoken leader of Turkish nationalism, Mr. Turkish, who was talking to the Armenian president of that day. And the last one was the Zurich Protocol, which included, by the way, a commission of experts that Turkey claims that Turkey wants instead of the recognition by the German parliament and other parliaments. So Turkey had that opportunity. One part of the deal was the opening of the border to Armenia, and it was Turkey that stopped that deal. So I don't see, unfortunately, I wish to say something else, that there is any outlook that under Erdogan anything will happen into that direction. So I think it's time, as friends of Turkey, to tell Turkey this is the wrong path.
One last question, Mr. Ozdemir. We hear that several lawmakers in the German Parliament have been receiving hate mails, negative comments on social media. Are you one of those lawmakers?
Well, obviously, just look in my Facebook account or Twitter account, you will read those kinds of reactions. Some of the reactions are really, let me say, interesting. They say there was no Armenian genocide. Unfortunately, we have overseen you. So what does that say? We've overseen you. So there was no genocide, but unfortunately, we didn't kill everybody. But let's forget about that. We shouldn't talk about that. I think there are two messages. One, a lot of people have questions. They don't know where to ask them because they don't find appropriate answers in Turkish history books, and they don't find a place where they can discuss that, ask those questions. So I think this should be the starting point of the discussion. And second, I hear a lot of things like threats. Let's face it, if I vote in favor of that resolution, nothing will happen to me. I will not go into prison. I will not lose my job. The ones who really have to show courage are the people in Turkey. So, let's be a bit relaxed. We're living in a democracy. Nothing will happen to us.
Okay, Mr. Ozdemir, thank you very much for that. The views there of Cem Ozdemir, the co-leader of Germany's opposition Greens. Back to you in the studio, Brian.